Hey, I'm here with a good friend, Michael Zuber. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing very well, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm excited. Couple things. I'm loving the financial news that you're putting out. And again, I know I've said this before on previous recordings, but I really just want to be clear. If you're not following Michael's daily financial news, you're missing out, especially if you're interested or in the real estate industry. Any thoughts on that? I see a nod. And
Yeah, I think the daily financial news is something you got to pay attention to because it's never about one day, right? Like I just did today's Friday session. It's about watching every day. And so you can see the trends in the inflection points, right? Again, I've been doing a daily financial show for almost 18 months now, every single day. And you can go back and look at any day, like find your birthday, go look at the birthday, see what was going on your birthday. And you just really can start to tie this together. So I'm really happy that the daily shows are are consistently over 1,000 views in 24 hours, which is pretty cool. And I sometimes have 100 people on the live streams because I try to do them every day at 7:30. That way you can count on them if you want to get it right, right then. Join me at 7:30, and it's pretty amazing to see 100 people, join that some mornings. It's a lot of fun.
I love it. And I love too that unlike every other news source, everything's so politicized. And what's unique with Michael is that I have no idea politically what way to me, you seem very just right in the middle and moderate,
Yep.
and I'm sure that you have, we all have opinions, but what's beautiful
Yep.
with Michael's news is that it's specific to what's really going on, and it's meant to be informative, not sensationalized. So thank you for that. I love that, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're very welcome. And I do that on purpose. I've always been in the middle. I think most of us live in the middle. I think social media has exaggerated the extremes. But here's the deal: you generally don't make money in the extremes, right? Most folks are in the middle. You got to watch the middle. If you get lost and left or right, red or blue, all of that, conservative, liberal, you're gonna miss stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and your views will be so slanted. So I seek counter opinions because I'm always double checking. And sometimes, I have to shave edges on my own opinions because, yeah, I'm doing, these daily shows. I'm glad you're getting value out of them, but let's be clear. I get value out of them also, both in the interaction, both with the questions. I mean, even if somebody totally disagrees with me, I love the comments. So the feedback I get is tremendous, and I appreciate each and every comment.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to do this a little in reverse order, but the thing that
Sure.
is a hot topic, I think, today in the news, and I think just on people's mind is I think there's a lot of confusion out there, but there's a big concern in the real estate industry about all the forbearance agreements that have been in place over the last 6 months, and then also the
Mhm.
fact that for the most part, nationwide, foreclosures have been halted. There are some of them going that are non-government loans, not
Mhm.
non-GSE, government-sponsored loans. But overall, I'm reading, I'm watching other videos, and people are talking about a tsunami of foreclosures that are coming because of the forbearances. And I just want to
Mhm.
get kind of your perspective and kind of the truth as you see it about this specific topic.
Yeah, so there's really two things we have to educate people on. Let's first remind them of timelines. Because even if we're going to have a wave of foreclosures post eviction moratorium, post forbearance, people are acting like the inventory shows up tomorrow. It doesn't work that way, folks. You need to go back and look at your state's history. For example, I did some research on California, Nevada, and New York because those are states I'm worried about. So I won't remember the exacts. I have a video on it you can go back and watch. But the average foreclosure time for California was 700 days. That's almost 2 years. Las Vegas was 1,350 days, and New York was 1,500 days. So, folks, if you believe there is a foreclosure wave coming, and you are seeing a foreclosure wave causing 2021 price destruction, you're just wrong. Even if all 3 million or 6 million or 10 million properties go to foreclosure, 700 days in California, 1,300 days in Nevada, 1,500 days in New York. That's not 2021, right? Because again, forbearance is an agreement between the lender and the borrower. The foreclosure clock doesn't start until there's a disagreement between the lender and the borrower. So if you are in a 6 months forbearance, you're good. You don't see 30 days delinquent until the lender says, no, you're out, and you say, no, I can't pay. That's when the clock starts, right? Then you go 90 days down. Then there's an NOD. Then there's, 3 or 4 months. And then there's a filing. And then there's this. And then there's that. It's just not a 2021 problem. If you see an inventory wave coming because of foreclosures, that's a 2022, 2023 impact, not 2021. So first, appreciate timing, because you all are being stupid thinking foreclosures are going to impact 2021 inventory. Timelines say impossible. Second, you need to appreciate what a forbearance is. A forbearance is an agreement between the lender and the seller not to make a mortgage payment for a set of months. It is not a call on equity. It is not a call on debt structure. It is not a call on future payments. It basically means, hey, I lost my job. I need a break. And that's the huge difference between now and 2008. 2008, it was exactly the reverse. It was, call your bank, you have a problem. The bank says, we can't talk to you because all the loans are securitized until you're 90 days late. Yeah. So everybody went 90 days late. Yeah. And then we figured out that they had all bad debt structure. So even if you had equity, your payments exploded. You had a 2 and 28. The first 2 years, the interest rate's 0.9%. After 2 years, it resets to 7.5 or 8%. So as these time went by and these resets happened, your $800 mortgage payment suddenly is $2,200.
Yep.
You can't afford it anymore because the loan was built on an $800 payment. That was toxic lending. So the setup is very different. Today, people have fixed rate. Again, think about forbearance. You could have been in your home for a decade. You lost your job. You need forbearance. Okay, so you come out of forbearance and you still haven't found a job, or you got to move to Texas or Idaho, or you want to move to Texas or Idaho. Just because you lose your job, does that mean you're going to foreclose? No, you're simply going to sell your home. The equity position today is record level. The foreclosure wave is not coming. Yes, there will be some foreclosures, but it will be below average. It is not going to be the 4 million foreclosures we saw in 08 and 09. It's just not.
Yeah.
So I wish people respected that. Again, I see some foreclosures, but again, remember what we talked about first, the timeline. That's a 2022 inventory, 23.
Yep.
It doesn't work as fast. People want to think foreclosures are like stocks. Yeah. They can sell at a push of buttons. Real estate is illiquid. It doesn't trade that way. So it's just not going to happen, man. All these doomsdayers they're trolling for clicks and advertising revenue. They're not really trying to help anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just add on that, and I 1000% agree with you. I would add on top of that, the demand of the market, which we'll talk about as we progress into this conversation, but the demand is such where it's going to absorb a lot of those, if they do turn into defaults or people are in forbearances, they can just easily list the property, sell it to an investor, and there's going to be a very natural, organic absorption of the
Well, let's just hit that one more time, because again, what would happen this time that I saw up close and personal? So let's remind people what I was doing in 2010. I was buying properties almost every other week because they were that cheap and I can get private money, right? Yep. Then out of nowhere, suddenly inventory was gone, right? And I was buying out of the MLS. Yep. So what happened after some hunting and pecking is Wall Street came in. Wall Street came in and said, hey, I'm going to start buying as much of these houses sight unseen. So Wall Street was buying hundreds of homes at a time. So let's just pretend like this is going to happen again. So owner occupants are buying like never before. Investors are frozen, which I would love to buy more, but can't. But even if the big wave happened, Wall Street's got billions, hundreds of billions of dollars waiting to deploy. The price destruction is not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I completely 1000% agree with you. And I think that if anything, for a lot of the viewers, a lot of people that are watching this, because I know we've got some really savvy wholesalers, really professional, aggressive realtors who are out there listing and selling properties, other fix and flippers, landlord investors like yourself, like myself. I know that also too, there'll be an opportunity in there for us, to pick up more inventory and such. So
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think it's going to be this. I agree with you that there's not going to be there's not going to be any kind of a crash on the pricing, but more of just an opportunity there. There will be an opportunity there to pick up inventory, I think.
No, there's no question. And again, that is the right way to say it. There's going to be an opportunity to pick up inventory. Why didn't it? And again, that's an important distinction, because what we're going to be able to do this time, because the debt structure is very different in residential, is we're going to be able to buy creatively, right? Like Subject to, for example, and Pace Morby and those guys. You're going to be able to buy Subject to. And that is a skill I do not have currently. I want to pick up. I want to learn how to do that. Because in 2008's crash, the debt was toxic. The last thing you wanted to do was do Subject to of a toxic deal, right? Where the loan was resetting and it had all these terms and fees. But now, picking up a 30-year mortgage at 3.125%, that's already got 2 or 3 years, burned off of it, that has value to me. Yeah. So I'm going to be able to pick up inventory creatively in 2021. I'm confident. And again, when you do it creatively, it doesn't show as price destruction. It doesn't get recorded, right? So again, it's just not going to happen, folks. I wish people would stop. Now, we could have a problem in 22 or 23 or 24. I just want to fight the battle and push back against these idiots telling everybody the crash is coming in 2021. Because when we get there and it doesn't happen, you're going to feel like you missed the boat.
Yep, 100%, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. So let's talk about, this was interesting too, that interest rates, but even more important, we've talked a lot about interest rates in past shows, specifically affordability index. California Association puts out an affordability index, and specifically, you've been doing this 20 plus years. You have a history. I know that in terms of timing, you mentioned somebody asked you, like, what does this feel like? If you look back in history over your career, over your investing over 20 plus years, what year does it feel like? And maybe tie in affordability index, and we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, so let's do the affordability index first. Again, one of the things you must read in my book, One Rental at a Time, is how I survived the 2008 crash. And it was quite simply one metric the California Association of Realtors puts out called the affordability index. Every state does it differently, so you got to go look up yours. Look at it in 2000, 05, 10, 15, and 20. In Fresno, in 2008, Fresno got down to a historic low of 20. Wow. When I started buying, it was 56. So what happened is it basically went from half the people in Fresno could buy the average home to less than 1/5, or exactly 1/5. And historically speaking, you can go back and look at the affordability index and says when it gets that low, prices have peaked. Man, I love a trend that I can bet on. And that is a trend you can bet on. So I sold my houses. And sure enough, I was right. All that equity. And again, folks, go to Zillow, write this address down. 1818 Norris Drive East, Norris Drive East, 93703. I bought it for 107 and sold for 264. It was foreclosed on at 75. The affordability index saved my ass. So again, every state does it differently. California is 0 to 100. Some places are 100 to 200. Simply go look in your market, see what it did in 2000, 2005, 2010, 2015, and today. So it saves you. So what is the affordability index in Fresno today? And why I'm confident prices are going up? It is 48.
Yeah.
Why? How can it be 48 when Fresno has record prices? Affordability index has 3 factors. Price is only one of them. Second is interest rates. Interest rates are more than half below what they were in 2008. So the payments are remarkably cheaper, even with prices up. And then the third factor is income. Incomes aren't up nearly as much as price, but they are up. And they are up when you add on interest rate, they are remarkably higher. So Fresno, even today, at a record of 346,000, is remarkably affordable. So I am very confident I'm going to buy as many single family houses as I can. And if the market ever got to 20, I would sell every single house just like I did last time. But we are years away from that.
Yep, absolutely. And it's interesting too, because I've also been following the affordability index for a long time. And it's interesting that it got in, so like in Solano County, Contra Costa County, Alameda County, it got down into the teens. And that was like the red
Wow.
flag of, like 19, 18%. I think it got down, I want to say roughly the Bay Area as an average got down to about 17%, 18, 17%.
Well, San Francisco got to 9.
Yeah.
9. Nuts. There's no way San Francisco is affordable, and now they're going to pay the price. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting too that just the timing of the market. So I looked at it today, the affordability index, and looking in places like Kern County, which is Bakersfield, 52%. Looking in places like Sacramento in the low 40s, and even markets in the Bay Area that are in the high 30s. So, I mean, very good numbers for affordability, considering the timing that there's still a lot of run left in this market. So,
yeah, and again, there's 3 factors: price, interest rates, income. So the one of those 3 factors that is most likely to surprise you in the short term is interest rates.
Yeah.
Right. If interest rates went from 2.75 to 5 or 6% like overnight,
yep,
that would affect you want to see the affordability index crash. That's one way it'll happen. And that's why I keep telling people the only way single family houses crash in 2021 is if interest rates on a 30-year mortgage go to 6%.
Yep.
Is it possible? Sure. Is it probable? No.
Yep. And I think too, in our playlist, I think the very first video you and I did when we started this specific Friday series, we talked about, my big question was, what if? So for those of you that are concerned and had the same question I had, which is, well, Michael, what could potentially trigger a big spike in interest rate from where we're at today to 6 or 7% or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
We cover that in another video. You can go to Michael's YouTube channel, and it's on there. We have a playlist, and you can find
the playlist is just called TY.
I love it. So let's talk about the history. You've been doing this 20 years. Timing wise, tell me kind of like, how does this feel? Like, I know I can remember.
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, the timing, like, how does this feel for you right now? What year is it? If you look historically, how does it feel for you? What year?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because I got asked that on another podcast, and I had to think about it. So I've had some time to decompress now, and I got to tell you, it kind of feels like 2004. So what was 2004 like? So we were clearly in an appreciating market, right? I bought a house in 2002 for 107. I think it was worth 150 by then. So we've had some growth, but it wasn't the hyperbolic market of 07 and 08, which was clearly unhealthy. Yeah. And again, 04 was just the setup for another great years, because the market in Fresno was like this, and then it went higher, right? So I think 04 was like a 10 or maybe a 9% appreciation. 05 was like 12 or 13. 06 was like 21 or something. So we're right on that cusp. So again, I don't bet on appreciation. I don't count appreciation, but appreciation happens. So I'm going to buy as many single family homes today, that cash flow today, that I can conservatively finance, because I fully expect houses to appreciate and then get the opportunity to do what we're going to talk about next, which is to 1031 into distressed multifamily, because I see lots of pain there, because they're doing some of the funny lending that we were doing in houses in 08. They're doing it in multifamily today, which is funny how it changes. So yeah, it feels like 04. I even if I don't buy another property, I'm still happy with everyone I own today, because it's going to be a good couple of years, I think.
Absolutely. It's interesting too. You talk about funny lending practices, and it's interesting because in the 2008 blow up, the mortgage meltdown, we had Dodd-Frank, which was
Mm-hmm.
basically legislation that put a lot of restrictions and supposed to be safeguards, and for the most part they
Yeah.
are safeguards for consumers and borrowers who are buying single family residences, buying homes to occupy. And
Mm-hmm.
to your point on the finances, is you're absolutely spot on, where they've taken a lot of those creative methodologies, if you will, Wall Street and the different hedge funds and investment banks, and have taken that now to the multifamily space over the last, probably feels like the last 5, 7, 8 years. And so
Mm-hmm.
let's touch on multifamily a little bit. I think you did a great video yesterday or the day before talking
Yep.
about multifamily, and maybe just kind of maybe a little summary of just your thoughts there.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that's great about their YouTube channel, One Rental at a Time, is I interview experts Monday through Friday, right? Ty, you're my Friday guy. But I have another guy on Thursday who is a syndicator, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars. And he's been calling for the last couple of years some of the shenanigans going on in commercial multifamily. And basically, the discussion yesterday is interest only, which has a place in multifamily. Like if you buy a value add, you got a big capital improvement, it's nice to do interest only for the first year. It just makes cash flow management a little bit easier. But what he's called for yesterday is IO went from this kind of once in a while offshoot in commercial to that's the only way deals get done, right? They're doing IO deals for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And what's happening now is the vintage from a 17 or 18 is coming due. And what that means is you go from interest only payments to principal and interest. So now you don't have, now you have to make a bigger payment. And because you're making a bigger payment, you can't make distributions. And your LPs get upset, limited partners. And your preferred return can't get matched. And oh, by the way, we all know that multifamily is suffering from rent drops and occupancy problems and all these other things. So what is happening is this IO interest only creative became the standard. And now there are going to be lots of loans that are in technical default and will either be extended and pretended or will be sold as distressed assets. And unfortunately, the general partners in syndications likely won't be hurt, but all the limited partners money are going to vanish. And there are, I've heard deals just this week of limited partners losing 100% of their investment. And it's tragic, right? They got in value add to get sold a big bill of goods. Then this comes out of nowhere and they're 100, 250, $500,000 is gone like that.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. So then looking forward, and you said this earlier, but looking forward now, you believe, and I believe also, that single family is the best investment going forward into 2021. Mm-hmm. And yet also in 22, 23, somewhere down the road, there's going to be a bigger buying opportunity to now 1031 exchange those single families into multifamilies, and sometime 23, 24, the year 2025, something along those lines. It's kind of your thoughts process.
Yeah, I fully think so. Again, people need to read my book, One Rental at a Time. I'm repeating my first 5 years. And again, let's know what that means. Again, I will only buy single family homes at cash flow today. That gives me unlimited holding periods. I fully expect, as we shared earlier, for appreciation in my market to be great for a couple of years, which means, I'll be worth a lot more money. And then I fully expect, because again, if we're at 48 in Fresno today, and it gets to 25 or 23, or heaven forbid, 20, I will sell every single family home I own. And I'll keep some of the cash, but believe me, I don't want that tax bill. So I will 1031 into where the distress is. And I fully expect these IO deals, these interest only deals in multifamily, to come back and bite some people. And I will be there to either step in as an equity provider or take over the debt or, buy a distressed asset. So yeah, that's my plan.
That's awesome. I love it. And the last thing that we're going to cover today, I want to just talk about the demand. In 2020, obviously, we had a huge demand with very limited supply. And then we talked a little bit before we got into the show here in the interview. 2021, you mentioned opportunities and where the demand might be. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I really think it's actually a supply. When I think about this stuff every day. And when I've been looking at 2020, like you, I've been seeing crazy demand, owner occupants. I can't buy anything. I'm losing deals, right? It'll be my least transactions I've done in 15 years this year. And it's not for lack of trying. I've probably sent out over 200 offers, maybe 250. And I think we'll do 5 transactions, 5 purchases this year. So not nearly what I wanted, but I don't do stupid deals. I only do good or great deals. But what I mean is I'm sitting here going, where's the inventory? Where's the inventory? Everybody else on YouTube is saying foreclosures, frustrated landlords, eviction moratoriums. And as we discussed earlier, that inventory is not going to be big enough to move the needle. And it doesn't move the needle in 2021, as we've already discussed.
Right.
But I found the wrinkle. What I believe is the greatest opportunity for supply is what goes down in real estate is the move up buyer. So the move up buyer is likely purchased their home 4 or 5 years ago, and maybe even as long as 10 years ago. But now they're a decade older. They have plenty of equity. They've gone from an individual contributor to a manager. They've seen promotions. They're making more money. And what typically happens is real estate is the move up buyers, after 5 to 10 years, they sell and they go to a nicer part of town, a newer unit, bigger. That move up buyer froze in 2020. I'm scared. I don't want to list my house. I don't want people touching my stuff. I don't know if my job's going to be safe. So this is what I foresee happening starting in May. Next summer is going to be bananas for listings, because by that point, we will have at least started vaccines, if not into it for several months. People will start feeling better. The economy will start booming. Interest rates will still be low. They may not be as low as they are now, but they will be low historically. And people are going to go, God, I feel good. I'm happy. I'm excited. Boy, 2020 was horrible, but woohoo, 21 is going to be awesome. And the move up buyer is going to be bananas, which is great for me because I learn my market every day. I'll see it coming. What I'm telling my students, which you're a member of, is learn your market. This is the perfect time to do it. So if you aren't learning your market, you need to take the course. But man, get ready for 2021, because I think the move up buyer means more first-time homeowner properties coming of all type. Clean, perfect, dirty, needs work. Oh man, it's going to be a great time. That's what I see coming. That's what I see as the missing piece.
I love it. I love it. I love it too that, it's very well thought out. There's a big opportunity. There's a lot of fear. I mean, all over in the economy, in the political world, in the social world. There's so much fear out there. And I think it's just really critical that people get informed. And that's what I love is when I spend time with you, Michael, it's informative, it's direct, it's very well thought out. And I just love because you're in the game. It's not like you're not on the sidelines talking about it. You're not up in the broadcast booth, talking about it. You're actually on the field.
I get dirty every day.
Yeah, I love it. So thank you so much for your time. Again, for those of you that are not, or if you don't know if Michael is new to you, you can find him on YouTube at One Rental at a Time. You can also find him on Instagram, One Rental at a Time. And then he also has a Facebook group, One Rental at a Time. He's got a great course. I'm a member of it. He does lots of great content about analyzing your market, a lot of really great content. So I would encourage you, get involved and start following Michael. So thank you so much, Michael.
Take care, Ty. Thanks.
Awesome, man.